Alright, so I'm getting ready to go to my city's council meeting, and before I go in, I'd like to talk about an experience I had yesterday going to a thing called SACOG. In the area, I'm not an expert on this at all. I went as just a concerned citizen, which I found out was a rare thing. Most everybody there had interest. They were government employees, they represented businesses or environmental groups, whatnot. But I went to this thing called SACOG, S-A-C-O-G, SACOG. And it stands for like the Sacramento. I have no idea. I'll put an annotation about what it was called. But anyways, and they were talking about the MTP, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So I went not because I believe in central planning. I hope I've made that clear in some of my past videos. I do not believe in central planning. I went to hopefully influence how they went about it, which I didn't get to really do, but hopefully I slightly influenced the few people who I really got to talk to, and it'll be small little changes that affect things. So here's what happened. I got there early, got a good seat. They had the whole group, the whole room, there was like 30 to 40 people, 30 members of the public, or 30 people that weren't there to work. They had us broken into tables of like 6 to 8. Maybe less than that. At my table there was 6. So probably 4 to 6. They had 7 tables set up, so that I think there was like 28 to 30 of us there total. Anyways, and they had 3 plans for us to choose from that they were going to go with, or they were looking at, or they wanted community input, or I honestly don't know. I just signed up for it because I saw that the public was going, and I know that that's going to have more influence on the way things are than voting. So we were there. Plan 1 involved building lots of new roads. Plan 3 involved not building a lot of roads and building more bike paths and mass transit, and Plan 2 was like a combination of those. So in my view, a simple, easy way to look at it is Plan 1 was pessimistic as to the way people will change their behaviors in the future. Plan 3 was optimistic, and Plan 2 was somewhere in between. Or you could look at it as Plan 1 took into account the way people currently live their lives, and that's with cars, and Plan 3 expected people to all of a sudden decide they want to bicycle to work and to get their groceries. I think it'd be better if everything just happened naturally and spontaneous order, that kind of thing. Let the free markets reign. Let's not subsidize mass transit, and let's not subsidize roads. Let's allow people to pay for what it is they determine they want to do. We're artificially influencing the way people go about their lives. I ended up getting quoted in the paper. It was an offhand comment. Not that the writer quote mined me or misquoted me. He is simply walking around listening to people's comments, and he happened to hear this one comment. It was an offhand comment that I made, and he put it in the paper. I'll put a link to that in there too, down in the description box. It was an offhand comment, something like, our area already has enough housing, we don't need more. Because one of the plans expected us to have planned for us to have 20,000 more houses in this region, and we already have a lot of empty houses. And another plan had us getting half that much, which was still 3 times more than the historical trend. It's just lots of numbers, and I really feel weird about telling them what I think about their predictions when they don't hold a crystal ball and I don't hold a crystal ball. So how am I supposed to predict which one of their predictions is right? It's, like I said, whole centralized planning bothers me. Anyway, so I did get quoted in the paper. That was kind of cool, but like I said, it was an offhand comment. It missed all the other free market ideas that I threw out there, or suggestions I had. But it was a nice meeting. It was well ran. I've gone to lots of government meetings. They're usually really boring. This was really boring, but it wasn't. I didn't fall asleep. How about that? The biggest pet peeve I have is they do things like hand you a packet of stuff, of information they're going to be discussing, and then having a PowerPoint presentation that they put up the slide, and then they read you what's on the slide as if you can't read, and then they ask you a question about it, and they read you what's coming out of the packet look, if you can't read, please don't be making decisions about how billions and billions of dollars will be spent over the next 2 to 3 decades. You really shouldn't. But that's not just a government thing. I got that when I went to school, and you get that in a lot of places. They just have something and just assume you won't read, so they'll read it to you. Let's see, what else happened? I met some nice people. I found out I was a little closer connected to some of these people than I had expected. You know, friends of friends, that kind of thing. Mutual friends we had. I got to meet the vice mayor of Marysville. She was at my table. Cynthia, I believe her name was. And she remembered, I'm not really impressed with the city of Marysville, but I was impressed with her. She remembered that I had gone to their city council a few weeks back to make my complaint about the charges that I had to pay in order to get the documents I requested for my California Public Records Act request. So while the city has still not contacted me, telling me whether they're going to refund my money or not, at least she remembered me, so something's sucking. Or she's really good at that kind of thing. Either way, I was impressed by that. We had a gentleman at our table who was running for the Marysville City Council, a gentleman from the foothills area, I think he said Oregon House, who was concerned about getting more public transportation into that region, in which case I told him how, in my small town, which has significantly more population than they do, we have lots of buses, and my family's monthly newspaper, we've done stories about how nobody uses it. Nobody uses it. They're talking about building bike paths and walkways and making it so people can bike and walk to work. My small town, you can bike and walk everywhere pretty much, and nobody does. There's a small handful of us who walk and bike when we want to go somewhere, but people would rather take the 5 minutes in a car rather than 8 minutes by foot. You can't tell people not to do that. So let's see, who else was at our table? There was a lady from not going to remember what this is, but she was from like a arborist kind of organization down from Sacramento. She knew the local arborist here, who my family's our friend was. They're like they're like the area's token hippies, but they're cool. So it went well. I'm the most proud of myself because they had lots of cookies and soda pop, and I only had 2 cookies and 1 can of soda. It's a stupid thing to be proud of myself with, but whatever. Like I said, it was kind of boring, and I knew what we were doing wasn't going to make a huge bit of difference, but it makes more of a difference than voting. So that's all you can do. I really suggest, I know lots of you out there don't think centralized planning is valid and think that government's immoral, and I agree. But if we're going to be forced to play an immoral game, if we're going to be forced into an immoral situation, we might as well, when they say, hey, but you get a say in it, have a say in it, go to these kind of things. This is where people who actually make a difference go, and we might as well go there and voice our concerns there, because going and standing on a street corner and telling 1,000 people, of which 10 will care and 1 will do something about it, can be effective and has a cumulative effect. But going to this kind of a room where there was 40 people there, and I got to talk to 20 of them, and hopefully I shifted their thinking just a little bit, and maybe got 1 going, yeah, why do we centrally plan all this crap? It has more of an effect. So if you have something like that going on in your area, I really suggest going to it. I think it can be really effective in swaying public policy in a direction that you desire. Unfortunately, the people who go right now are people who want to sway it in a way that involves more government rather than less.